You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we are doing our World Cup 2023 previews and predictions. On our last episode for audio listeners, we went through the Netherlands, we went through New Zealand, and we went through Afghanistan. And I think it's fair to say we weren't too hot on any of them. So let's see what the next batch of teams brings. Today, we'll be talking about Bangladesh, we'll be talking about South Africa, and we'll be talking about the Sri Lankans. The Johnny-come-latelys, basically, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, only recently adding their teams to the mix. I'm Jack Hope. I'm joined by Ross Legg. How are you doing, Ross? Are you excited to do some World Cup previews? Just back from Vegas. How was it? Are you a millionaire?
I'm not a millionaire, no. But Vegas was a weird and wonderful place. So it was. I'm not sure if I'd go back, if I'm perfectly honest. But if they held Major League Cricket in Vegas, it would be a roaring success. But people were asking about it because I was wearing the Cricket Podcast shirt out, and we've got some content of me playing some baseball, and we also dressed the stag up in our cricket whites, which has the Cricket Podcast logo. He did first pitch at Las Vegas Aviators versus the Reno Aces, and then got up and sung Elvis in front of 7,000 people. So it was pretty good. Yeah.
Did he bowl it?
No, but he bowled a wide though. Literally, the guy straight over. So we've got some good videos. So we'll get those edited and shared for our escapades. I am looking forward to the World Cup. Actually, I think it'd be really, really good fun. And I think, I don't know. I've been looking at some of these teams, and there's a bit of potential. I think in these three.
Yeah, I mean, definitely with one of them. I'm actually pretty excited to see them play. I've been excited watching them play. You'll probably guess who it is, and you'll notice our enthusiasm goes up a notch for one of these three. We are starting with Bangladesh, though, Ross, and I'm the man who did the detailed research into the Tigers. One of my favourite teams at the last World Cup, I think. I managed to catch them at the Oval. Great support. Always really well followed. And it felt like in 2019 that they were sort of, reaching their potential or about to reach their potential as a cricketing nation. Have they really kicked on from them? I'm not so sure. They've had a disappointing T20 World Cup in between, haven't they? And a few other results. Refresh the team a little bit, and we'll see what happens. Let's kick off. Let's kick off, shall we, Ross? Are you ready? Are you ready for some Bangladesh Tigers action? All right,
please.
They will be captained by Shakib Al Hassan and coached by Chandika Hattarasinghe. That's a coach with 2 decades experience. I actually didn't really know that much about him, so did just a little bit of due diligence. It's his second stint with Bangladesh. He's pretty active on Twitter, if you want to get an insight into the man, where recently he sent a complaint to Virgin Australia after they cancelled his flight, gave him a flight the next day and lost his bag, would you believe? So justice for Chandika, I say. I hope he got his bag back, because his 250 million Twitter followers now have, the brand Virgin Australia is irrecoverably damaged, I would say.
No way. He's got 250 million followers.
Sorry, did I say million? Thousands.
Yeah. 250 million followers.
That's still a lot, mate. That's still a lot. We should get him on the show, see if we can increase our reach at the Cricket Pod. We'll plug ourselves there. Kit review. I like the Bangladesh kit. It's in the classic mould. They've not gone too extravagant. It's the return of the red lapels, I think, after they dropped it in the last tournament. It's one of the good kits. It's not a Netherlands, but it's not bad. I actually haven't even really seen a bad kit for this tournament. So kit review done. How do they get to the World Cup? Well, they had a pretty good ODI Super League, Ross. Largely built, as I think you could probably guess, on some good home form. When they went away, they were a little bit iffy, but they managed to finish third overall in the 12-team league, top 8 qualified. So job well done there. Good work. I have a theoretical 11. This is where things get a little bit difficult, and I'll do the theoretical 11, and I think we'll talk about really the big story here, because the guy who isn't in the 11 is sort of the story. So Tanzid Hassan, Tanzid Hassam Tamim, which is kind of a little bit confusing there. Not that Tamim. We'll get to him. Litton Das, Najmul Shanto, Shakib Al Hassan, Tawid Hridoy, and Mushfiqur Rahim, I think will be the top 6. You never really know, and they chopped and changed quite a lot in the run-up to the World Cup through the Asia Cup as well.
Some very adept players, though, are playing spin in that lineup.
Yeah, they've recalled Mamadullah recently, and he's been included in the squad, and I think his experience will mean he gets in the 7-ish spot. Mehdi Hassan, I've got down at number 8 with Mustafizur Rahman, Shoraful Islam, and Taskin Ahmed as the likely bowlers. Although there's some debate about that. They might go with like Hassan Mahmood or Hassan Ahmed in one of those spots. So it'll be something like that. They like to chop and change. Don't expect it to be a super settled side. For example, they've opened with Mehdi Hassan in within the last 3 matches. So that's Bangladesh. That's how they roll. A constant soap opera, as I saw someone tweet. Obviously, Ross, there's a man missing there, isn't there? Who is that man? And are you sad to not see that man in the squad?
Iqbal. Where is it? Where's he? Where's the guy retired recently and then unretired, and has been, well, let's be fair, a pretty decent ODI and short format batter for Bangladesh over the last 5-10 years?
15 years probably. I mean, it's quite a long career for Tamim. And if you're a regular listener to the show, you'll remember our coverage of his retirement, then his unretirement, and now we're probably going to be covering what I suspect will be his retirement again. If you haven't been listening though, and you weren't with us in the summer, it's probably worth sort of recapping this from the beginning. So back in sort of midsummer, June, July, Tamim Iqbal was the captain. He also had a long-standing back injury, and it was making his life pretty miserable having to play. So he decided, I'm going to retire. Mixed in with all of this, there was sort of a ongoing ruckus that he was having with Nazmul Hassan, the Bangladeshi Cricket Board fitness, who was sort of publicly questioning his commitment to the team, saying things like the doctors can't find anything wrong with him, he's just making it up. When obviously, I think it's pretty fair to say to Tamim here that wasn't the case. I think he actually, like a lot of batters, had a bad back, and it was troubling him.
Well, he'd been also carrying the team for quite a long time, so one of those things, right?
So he retires, and then he gets a call from none other than Sheikh Hasina, who is the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, and she
totally normal behaviour, absolutely normal behaviour.
She invites him to her house, the official residence, where Mushrafe Mortaza, do you remember him from back in the day? Yeah. Probably the last World Cup, actually. And
surprised he's put in the fucking squad, if I'm perfectly honest.
And aforementioned President Hassan were there to have a conversation. Quite clearly in this situation, Tamim Iqbal is kind of left with no choice but to change his mind, and he releases a statement being like, well, when the Prime Minister calls, you have to answer that response. So I'm going to come back. What was quite nice is that the Prime Minister herself gave Tamim 6 weeks off so he could recover. We've got Dr. Ganguly, and we now have Dr. Hasina with Bangladesh. So he's back in the team. Last week he actually played, made 44 against New Zealand. After the match, he said to the physios, my back is pretty sore. And it comes out, or what is alleged is that he has said that he'd only be able to play 5 matches at the World Cup. Now, in a mix, enmeshed with all of this is a little bit of discord with the ringleader, Shakib Al Hassan, famously mild-mannered. And
very mild-mannered, yep.
Yeah. Not prone to anything.
Role model for every Bangladeshi child.
So he basically gives the team an ultimatum. He says, I'm going to step down as captain and make myself unavailable for the World Cup unless we drop Tamim Iqbal, because I don't want a guy in the squad who can only play 5 matches. Which is they could have taken him, and then if he was injured, he could have dropped out. No, it's the nuclear option. It's DEFCON 1 from Shaqib there.
Just don't say it. You literally know you've got this lunatic in your team. Tamim Iqbal might as well just be like, "Yeah, I'm absolutely fine," and just be like, "Do you know what? I can't do it today."
Okay, we're gonna get to this. So the deadline's approaching. Yesterday at 5:45 Bangladesh time, they were supposed to announce the team. There are crunch talks happening at this point between the coach and the captain and
Prime Minister
Tamim Iqbal. They delay it by 2 hours, and then the rumours are confirmed that Tamim Iqbal is not going to be picked. Shaqib gets his way. It's all a little bit sad. And then today on his personal YouTube, Tamim Iqbal released a 12-minute statement saying that he actually was fit and he could probably have played all the matches. There was one turnaround that he wasn't sure about. I think their first match they play like 2 days later, and he was like, "I'm not 100% sure I could play both of them, but I think I could have played the rest of the tournament. And if I got injured, I'd have dropped out, like loads of players in the history of tournaments have." But actually, quite a reasonable thing to say. So we don't really know. Is the answer here? It's Bangladesh. It's a soap opera. Tamim Iqbal isn't at the World Cup. Is it a huge loss from a cricketing point of view? It might not be, but it's not really how you want to get your campaign off to a start, is it, Ross? What are your thoughts on that drama?
I think it is disappointing, and I think it's one of those pieces around Shaqib Al Hassan being kind of a model citizen and what a captain, right? When you're a captain of a potential 15-man squad, what you want to do is completely ostracize someone from the outset. So the behaviour is completely acceptable and completely normal to actually go and build a potential World Cup campaign. What I never understand about Bangladesh is that I always get excited about watching them. I think there's so much potential the majority of the time when you're going to see these guys play. And why do they shoot themselves in the foot like this on the eve of the tournament? I just really don't understand why it just feels like there's always this pain. Like someone like Lytton Das at the moment, he's been one of the better players in the world in the last 2-3 years, and actually a really reliable batter for them, and done really, really well. And it's kind of disappointing that this gets to overshadow it, rather than them talking about Mehdi Hassan and the potential of Shaqib actually taking some wickets. And actually, this is probably his last rodeo with Bangladesh, and I just think it's a disappointment to kind of the opening narrative for them ahead of the tournament.
I think it is, and I think there's some real bright, real highlights and bright points, I think, in this squad. And now they're going into this tournament with a little bit of a cloud kind of hanging over everything. Should we talk some strengths and weaknesses with that? Would you like that? Yeah.
Yes, do it.
It's another one of those ones where, and we had this with Afghanistan, where I think there's probably you can almost divide the team in two and say that's a strength and that isn't, depending on whether the player is a batter or a bowler. It's not as extreme as that, because I think Bangladesh have got some good batters. They're just not that explosive. Shaqib's one of them. Lytton Das is probably one of them. Najmul Shanto, another. Like there's guys who Mushfiqur who can score runs. They're just not.
They can build an innings, right? Yeah, they could. I think in ODI cricket that is kind of beneficial. And actually, when you think of some of the tracks you're going to be playing on, there is the opportunity to have a 275 that actually is competitive based upon if you've got the bowling.
Well, yeah, and the bowling is pretty good. I mean, if you look at their economy rates across the three phases of the game, the power play, the middle overs, and the death overs, they've got an above average economy rate in all of those. So it's a balanced attack. They've got an actually properly decent pace attack. I think Shoreful Islam has had a really bright start to his international career. Taskin Ahmed in the middle overs is a threat. And obviously you've got the Fizz as well. If you can get them on the pitch every game, and they have a decent backup or two in the pace department as well, so they should be pretty handy there. And then they've got like a sort of a litany of spinners who maybe aren't the most penetrating of all time, Shaqib, Mehdi Hassan, but they're not bad. Like they're pretty decent control bowlers, and if you can put teams under scoreboard pressure, there's no reason why Shaqib can't pick you up a couple of wickets. Like it's we've seen it before. Get them on the right tracks as well, which I think probably be a key to whether they succeed or not. And you actually have a really, I think, quite handy bowling lineup. I do, on the weakness side, fear for the batting. I think they are probably a little bit too slow. And I think on top of that, they don't necessarily have anybody who's regularly being batting through innings. So they've got a lot of guys who average sort of high 30s with a strike rate around 80, maybe a touch over 80. And that's, if you ideally, you'd want your guys who are averaging high 30s to have a strike rate near 100, and maybe a couple of guys who average mid 40s with a strike rate in the mid 80s. So, then you've got your balance and your stability, plus some guys who could be a bit more explosive. They're kind of missing in both of those, or they're lacking in both those areas. Is that me saying they have no chance? I don't think it is. I think they've got some really talented players, and it's the same four names. Say them again: Lytton Das, Najmal Shanto, Shakib Al Hassan, and Mushakur. I think are going to be absolutely crucial to whether this team comes off. They have a wild card in Mehdi Hassan as well, and we've seen him play some astonishing innings in the last 12 months. As I said, they've tried him as an opener, didn't massively come off, but you never know. Maybe they'll go down that route again. So there's something in that as well. I think they're really going to need a big tournament from one of those four, probably two of those four, if they're going to post scores that are going to be threatening. I don't know what you think. What do you think of Bangladesh?
No, I can't disagree. I think it's that part of. I do think they have those players, though. I do think someone like Lytton Das could have a tournament where you turn around and be like, right, this guy's gone and hit 450 runs or something along those lines, and you're just like, right, he's absolutely stood up. And then, as you say, if they've got a bowling unit that can bowl in Indian conditions and actually adapt quite nicely to it as well, I think they can probably have a bit of balance there, which they probably have missed in the past. And I think that's what kind of someone like Mehdi Hassan does offer in this lineup. Would I love to see Bangladesh win the World Cup? Absolutely, yes. That would be unbelievable. And yeah, I think they'll cause an upset or two on the way. They as you said, they maybe disgraced themselves in the 20 over World Cup, but it was pretty poor.
They lost to Scotland.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty bad. So I think they've got the team here to cause an upset or two. I don't think they have the team to consistently do that throughout the tournament that is ultimately required to win the game.
So that's your prediction. You're saying that they could be a spoiler. They could take points off somebody else, but you don't think they're going to piece it all together.
I think in the conditions that they're going to play in, I think they're going to be kind of maybe like almost like best of the rest at the bottom. So they won't finish kind of bottom or second bottom, but maybe kind of that third bottom kind of space is where I anticipate seeing them.
Yeah. I mean, I that's where they finished in the last World Cup. The last World Cup, they played 9, 1 rain off. They won 3. They beat South Africa. They were pretty close to beating New Zealand. And I think they had a bit of a game against India as well, but basically they couldn't quite get over the line. I think I'd be sort of inclined to agree with you and say they'll be there or thereabouts again. I think I really want to believe. I really want to believe, because I think there are.
We should get on the Tiger bus. Is that what we're saying? We said the podcast is going to go on the Tiger bus. I'm prepared to get on the Tiger bus. I think if they can win their first match, who do they have? Let's get up the fixtures quickly. So they play Afghanistan in the first match. That's a pretty nice start to a tournament. It's a huge game, actually. It's a huge game.
Yeah. Then they've got Sri Lanka, and then they've got. I think they've got. Oh no, sorry, hold on. That's the being an idiot. Then they've got England. Then they've got New Zealand. If they can win 2 out of those 3 games, that's a big ask. Then I think they've got a chance. And then I'll start to pump up the Tiger bus. What I actually think will happen is that, like you say, they'll be in games, but won't quite be able to get it over the line. Like, if you think about it, who are they going to have to beat? They're going to have to beat the Netherlands, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka.
They're going to have to take down New Zealand or South Africa.
Probably New Zealand, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then they've got to win 2 more games against Australia, England, India, Pakistan, and South Africa. Can they win 2 of those 5? I think that's unlikely. That's my take.
I just think if you think of the composition of the other teams and the way in which how far the teams now bat down, the style that they bat, I think there can just be those pieces where they just won't have an answer to chase in the way that they would need to, and that is the problem, I think, with this lineup.
Yeah, I'd be broadly inclined to to agree with that, Ross. Right, we round out every team with our nomination for their spirit animal, their mascot for the tournament. We had two goats and a limpet. So not the best selection of animals so far. This time, Ross, I've gone for a snake.
Okay.
Which I think works on many levels. A specific snake, the common mock viper. So the reasoning for this, despite looking like a badass, and the fact that they can mimic like one of the most dangerous animals in Asia, they are in fact harmless. And obviously you've got the snakiness of
Shakib
the Tamim non-selection to factor into that as well. Any final thoughts on Bangladesh from you before we wrap up?
Looking forward to watching them play. I think they've got some really talented players, and lit and das to have a really, really good World Cup.
Cool. Well, let's hope so. I mean, like, I actually genuinely really want them to succeed. I'm kind of ambivalent on a fair few of the teams in this tournament.
I've also just realised that if we are going to say the Tiger Bus, I think they should be called the Bang Bus. Is what I think they should be called.
Oh yes, the Bang Bus is definitely
all aboard the Bang Bus. Toot toot.
Yeah, and on that note, we should actually give a plug to our sponsors, Manscaped. You can get 20% off with the code CricketPod plus free shipping. So that's 20% off plus free shipping with the code CricketPod. We have sampled the Manscaped products and can confirm that they are top quality. The beard hedger keeping me looking sharp as I appear to you on YouTube, if that's what you're watching. If not, why don't you go over there and click subscribe. Join the Bang Bus. Get on board the Bang Bus with Manscaped. Fresh ball fall, etc. Use the code CricketPod for 20% off plus free shipping. Ross, we're going to take a break and then we will come back with Sri Lanka.